Well, in today's video, we are going to be converting from fluorescent lights to LED lights. Now, this video is quite long, and I have broken up into chapters, so you can jump ahead to the sections that you want to review. If you want to go through the whole thing, you can always play it at faster speed if you think I'm going too slow, or you can slow it down, whichever works better for you. Hey everybody, welcome to Tigner Adventures. We're Ninette and David, and we are working on our new diesel pusher RV. It's a 94 Holiday Rambler. And diesel pusher.
You said that.
I said that. So, but one of the issues, there's a number of things, and we have a playlist. So if you check out our playlist right up here, you can see that we're putting all these different fix-up videos all together for you, so you can kind of follow along with us and see what we're doing when you buy a used RV. Now, buying a used RV is good for the price. You can usually get a pretty good deal on the rig, but it usually requires some work to be done. And so, yep. So if you look back at my previous videos, you'll see that we had a list of like 20 something. We have been whittling that down, and those are things that have to be fixed. So one of them is the lights. All the lights need to be replaced. They're fluorescent right now. We're gonna make them all LED, and then in doing so, hopefully we'll be able to fix our ceiling, because our ceiling is coming down a little bit there too. So we're gonna kind of dig into that whole thing, and that's what we're gonna start doing today. All right, you can see here the ceiling is coming down, and the lights are under this plastic thing. So this acts as our piece for our air conditioner right here. So it does have the full length of the rig, that way all the way down to the back of the rig. And so cool lighting system. With the lights turned on, that's what it looks like, but we have a number of places that don't work. And I pulled this off and was looking at it, and usually it's just because it's got a bad connection, like this one over on the right that's blinking a little bit. It's just that it's not making a good connection. The bulbs are probably fine, but we're gonna replace them with all LED instead of fluorescent, because it draws a lot less power. So the way that this system works is that it's got a little groove in there, and a piece of plastic goes in that groove, and this kind of pinches that plastic. So all the way down this rail is a center piece of plastic that is pushed up into this little groove. And so we got to pull down on that to get that to release, and then pull that all the way the length of that particular piece. And in this case, there's like 3 of them to go the whole length of the rig. So we've got to pull them all out to get to that point. Now, one of the problems with this one up here is that the ceiling kind of moves a little bit. So I don't know if I can get this one to release, but I'm going to try it to start with, and then I'll start pulling through, and Ninette's going to support it while I get that all done. Oh, that one came off. So now we're just kind of pulling down this whole thing, and we're just popping it out of that little groove. And I'm putting a little dirt. I'm putting my fingers in there and kind of pulling on that centerpiece. So I'm not pulling on the outsides of them. And that way I'm pulling it down through there. So Ninette's going to support this, and then I'll get all the way down there, because it's about a 12-foot piece. All right. So you can see this center groove right here, and that is what we are pulling out all the way along there. Now these are the individual fluorescents, and this is that groove that those are in. You can kind of see that plastic there. There's a little piece right here, separation. So we're pulling into this section right here. That's what we're putting that into. We have central air in this unit, and it comes up here, and then it blows down these areas here where these little grooves are. And so we got to take this off because these are under it. And they've got little plastic things here that are just little covers over the screws. So we got to just pop those off there. It's not too big a deal. But you can see right here, this little plastic thing that's just on here, and it covers that screw. Can't hold on to this, but then the little cover just snaps over it, covers up that screw. So okay, you can see how these come together here though. So we'll set that to the side, and we're ready to pull down these other ones. Well, it looks like I found 4 bulbs that are probably bad. I can't tell, could just be the ballasts, but I'm not going to reuse any of these anyway. I'm going to replace these with these LED versions. So I looked up the type of bulb it is and went onto the internet. I put it in our link below, but I'm replacing it with this LED version, so you can see it looks just like a regular fluorescent at this point. It's just going to snap in there and turn. And the nice thing about these particular ones is this end rotates, so when I actually put them in there, I can rotate this around so the light is facing the right direction that I want it to be. The difference with these kind, this is the LED version of this one. This particular one I purchased, you have to remove the ballast. So this little guy up here is the ballast, and that's going to have to be taken out of there because all we want to put on this is just 12 volts. These last forever. They come in different color temperatures. So the one I picked was 4,000. I don't know how that is, 4,000 Kelvin, whatever. It's the brightness of the bulb. They have 6,000, and then they have one that's under that. I think it's 3,000 if I'm correct, which is like a warm light, what you'd normally have like in your house or something like that. I want these to be bright. I want to be able to see when I turn the lights on. I always hate it when the lights are so dim at night you can hardly see anything. I want it to be more like it's during the day if I'm going to use those big lights. I don't need to use these big lights if I don't want that bright of a light. I have little side lights I can use, but when I turn these on, I want to be able to see what I want to see. And so I really like these for this, and these only, I think it's 13 watts. So these fluorescent ones here, they pull upwards to about 1.5 amps to a little bit more for each light. And so that adds up when you've got, in this case I have 21 of these. So if I turn all these lights on at once, that's a lot of amperage. These only do 13 watts and they last virtually forever because we've had them in Beulah for at least 5 years now, maybe almost 6, and they're still going strong. They've been really good, so we really like them. So as I mentioned, I have 21 of these really long ones, but I also have some of these short ones. So these are little 1-foot versions, and so these have to be replaced also. It's the same setup. So I have 7 of those bulbs that need to be replaced, and I have 21 of these big ones to be replaced. So almost $500. They're about 12 bucks a piece, which is a pretty decent price that I found on Amazon. They're really nice ones, and so I really like them. And so anyway, that's an investment to make it a lot simpler when we are boondocking. Oh, and one thing I need to say before we get into this very far: if you are not comfortable working with electricity, then you might want to study this a little bit and just, you just need to be careful. Now, in this case, I'm only working with 12 volts. So, but 12 volts is like working on your car. It's not quite as critical as when we get into doing all the 120, volt system that we'll be working on with the solar. So, but just be really careful. The big things is that you don't really touch each wire to each other, okay? That causes sparks. So in that particular case, when you're working with this, it's really better to disconnect the battery, and then that way you have no voltage going through the system, and then you'll be a lot safer when you're working on this and you're not taking any chances. So just be careful and just do your research, figure out how you deal with that stuff and everything. But replacing these, cutting the wires out and just switching out the little pieces, pulling that ballast out. We have the power switch turned off, so there's no power up on this rail at all. So so we're not going to disconnect the battery in my case, because I've got the switch turned off. I feel comfortable doing this, and so I'm just going to pull that out and rewire it, and then I can turn the switch on. But these are in little metal things right here. You can kind of see that wiggling right there. So these have to be re-anchored back up. The screws have fallen out. I need to cut out the wires on this ballast, and then basically what happens is that you have a positive and negative side of these little lights that we have to wire up. So plus and minus, and so we'll take this out, cut the wires, and figure out our voltage where it's coming in at, and then wire the tubes along there, pull all these tubes out, and then put the fluorescent or the LED tubes in there. And then at that point, it'll be all done. All right, so I've taken the 2 screws down. I'm gonna go ahead and pull these metal trays out. I was just gonna do this and cut them, but these are actually riveted in here, so I need to drill those out. I'll show you how I do that. But in pulling that down, I noticed that they're hooked together here. So if you look up right in here, there's a little clip there, so I'm just gonna wedge that out of there. All right, this actually fell down here. So this comes down a little bit more, so I've got more space, but there's actually these 2 things I can clip right here, push, and then this bottom one will come out. All right, I had to wiggle that a little bit to get that off, but now it's off. And you can see how the ballast has got some rivets right here. So we need to just get a small drill bit and drill those pieces out right there. And then the ballast itself will fall out of there. And then we can take all the excess wires and cut them, and then rewire everything up accordingly. So I have a drill bit here, and you can see that when I put that onto that rivet that's right there, that it's just a little bit bigger than the hole, and all we're doing is just going to drill the top of that piece of the rivet off, and it'll just kind of come off. The little top head is still on the drill bit right there, but the actual rivet fell out. You can see all it is just the very top of that rivet. So pretty easy to take them off. This ballast now comes out of there. So lift it up out of there, and we can kind of, what we want to do is we want to cut these wires going to the actual ballast itself. So we're just cutting as close to this board as we can, because we kind of want to reuse these wires to connect things back together again. So, all right, that's what the ballast looks like, and this is just garbage, so we're just throwing these away. Cool. Okay, so we have all of these pulled out. I've marked them all, so this is number 12. So all of them are done here. We have this big pile of fluorescent bulbs. We'll check and see if anyone wants those. And there are all the ballasts that I've taken out. And but you know, that's all done and ready to go. So here are the basic instructions of how this works. So this is the old fluorescent tubing, and the different ends came up into this little ballast here. You could have some extra stuff up here too. Some of the older ones might have a little round starter thing there too. But you take all that out, and basically what you're doing is down here at the bottom, you're just taking one lead coming in, 12 volts to 30 volts DC, and you're hooking it to one side of the bulb and hooking the other one to the other side of the bulb. It does not matter which side gets which, whether it's positive or negative. It's just that you have to have positive on one side of the bulb and negative on the other side of the bulb. That's all that matters. So I'm going to show you how you wire these. I showed you the wiring diagram. I'm just going to show you how I'm putting these together. Just give you a couple little tips that might help you out. Now, first of all, we have this, which is our connector that plugs into the rig. So I usually just straighten this out a little bit because I need to strip these wires. And the thing to remember is this was the hole it's coming out of, okay? And this was the circuit board. So the board was in here, so that meant these wires went in there. So that means that we got to be pretty close to right there when we put them together. There's got to be this much of a pigtail on it. So that's what we're going to try to keep there. I'm just going to kind of set that over here for now. Then I take these long ones and I straighten them all out. And usually white is like your ground. In this case, we have on this connector we have black, which is typical, and then white on here is the ground. So what I'm doing here is I'm straightening out these long white wires, and it ends up being a little bit of all the different ones together because I don't want to have to buy more wire, so I'm just reusing what I have here. So once these are all straightened out, and the reason I'm straightening them out is to get the best length I can, and also set them up so I can strip them pretty easy because I have a little stripping tool. If I look down on here, you can see there's these two long white ones coming from this end and two long white ones coming from that end. Now remember, these lights are 12 volt, and so they have a plus and a minus, but these lights don't care which side is plus or minus. So we're going to make these long ones the minus sign, so they're going to be negative. They're going to go into the white of the connector over there. And then these blue ones are the positive, and you'll notice that they also have a little white one here. So that's why I'm saying they're kind of mixed and matched as far as this piece goes. But this over here is kind of normal. So black and white are the negative and the positive. So what I do is I come down here and I want to stretch this one side basically as far as it can go, because this guy is going to come in here, and what's going to happen is it's supposed to be pretty much right here, right? We want to have left over there, but the problem is that these wires are just a hair bit short. And so what I'm going to do is I have two options here to make this work. I'm going to take these and I'm going to cut them. First ones I'm going to worry about is these four long ones right here. And I'm going to twist that because that's how the wire nut will screw onto those spots right there. So I'm going to cut these two long ones off. Okay, so just kind of keep track of that. So I got two pigtails right there. And I'm going to go ahead and strip these. So I have this little tool. It works most of the time pretty good, but it's not my favorite one. There's other ones out there that are probably a little bit better, but it does do the job. So you just kind of squeeze it there. It's got a little adjustment here, and it keeps coming undone, so then it doesn't want to cut the wire. That's really the big issue. But then I pull one of these pigtails out of my box of garbage here, and I'm going to trim it also. So I'm going to pull that off, so I've got a nice bare end of wire there, and I'm going to pull all these off. And the goal here is I'm using these. I can grab one of these little yellow. They're for 22 to 10, minimum 2 22s and maximum 3 12s. So you can put 2 10s together or 3 12s. That's kind of how that works. What I'm going to do here is right now I'm putting these 4 together and this pigtail, because I got to get this over to where it's going to go. So with that in mind, what I do is I set these two like this, and then this one's going to go across here like this along with these. All right, so the idea here is that you've got to twist these. You want to have them twisting, all together. You don't want them just to be all straight. Some people do it that way, but it's a little bit easier to get them to really wrap together well, because see what I'm doing there is that's wrapping together. And I don't have any lineman pliers anymore. When we wired our house, we did all of this kind of stuff with our house, so I'm just using regular pliers at this point. So nothing fancy. It's a little bit harder, but then I'm cutting off this excess junk right here. So I'm just going to cut a little bit of that off. And so I got to have two sets of things there, which if I had lineman pliers, I wouldn't have to worry about it. But then this is called a wire nut. So it just screws on there and it holds all those wires together so they don't come undone. Just like that. And then we're going to twist this a little bit. to get this wire over here and these to kind of fit into there. So see, this one goes here now, which is back in line with where we needed this, you know, this piece here, which is our connector. Remember, it went into the board here, so now we're back in line there to have enough slack on the end. So there's that one. I'm just going to leave this out for a minute. The next thing I got to do is I've got to wire up this other side. So that's the negative side. Now, if I pull these negative ones out of there, you'll see that I have this other white one right here. And I'm going to do another pigtail here. So I want some excess over here so I have room. So I'm going to cut this about right here. And that works well with that side, those two pieces there. And these two, I'm going to use the pigtail again here to tap into that. So I'm just using the wires that are here already. That way I don't have to buy anything extra. You want to have, when you're stripping these, you want to strip them enough that you've got enough wire to twist onto itself. And if you just twist these for connectors, normally like little crimp connectors, then they're only like this long. But these I want longer because I gotta work them together here and get them to twist together. So again, I'm just kind of crisscrossing them across, and then I'm wrapping those around. Grab my pliers and continue wrapping that around. And when you do it that way, you'll notice the reason I'm trimming this off is because you'll get a bunch of excess junk, you know, different ones just sticking out there. They really don't do any good. And your wire nut is only so deep. You can see there's some little, it's like a little spring kind of thing. And so the wire will only go up there so far. So I want to make sure that when I put this nut on there, that it's coming all the way to the insulation. I don't want any bare wires just sticking out there to short out or anything. It's not as much of an issue with you know, 12 volt, so this is kind of low voltage. But you know, if things are just barely touching, it can still heat up. I mean, if you think about like your cigarette lighter, well, old cars had those. I don't know if the new ones do, but you know, if you have a cigarette lighter and you push on it, there's a little coil there, and that would heat up, and that's how you'd do your cigarettes back in the day when they did that. And so you don't want the wires touching because when they start touching just a little bit, it builds up some resistance there and heats the wire up. So all right, so here's my negative side. That's going to go into this one here, and this is 22 gauge wire, and it will tell you the gauge on the side of the wire typically. So in this case, I'm going to just put two of these together. So remember that connector there was a minimum of 2. So that's what I have here, minimum of 2. And for the most part, I can just do this by hand because that's not, it's just 2 wires. So I'm gonna trim that off, grab a connector, and twist it on there. All right, so that is the negative side. And again, we want to make sure that all the ones that are going to be negative, so that end are on this white, so that's the negative. This one and this one are going to be positive, so I've got a pigtail here. So now I need to connect this black one and these 2 whites that are connecting these 2 here together, and these and this blue one. So white one here is the 2 negatives, so it's all coming in here. If I pull that apart, you can see these are separate from these. So that's the key. You want to make sure that you don't have, you know, I mean, it's not going to hurt if you put 2 negatives on the same bulb. It's just not going to work. So there we go. So I have 2. I have the negatives on one end and the positives on the other end. So this is now ready to put up. and we've got our connector right here. So I kind of just squeeze those up into the ceiling. I try to push these down as much as possible, but the LED light doesn't get as hot as what a fluorescent does, so it won't matter if these are touching. So, and these were touching the fluorescents anyway, some of them. So, and it used to have, I mean, on one of the ballasts that I took out, it had a metal cover over it to kind of hide it. There was only one that had that, so it would have been nice to have those and kept them and kind of just stuck them on here. But I don't know how much you'll see these yellow connectors through the white thing or not. So anyway, this is ready to go up. Okay, we're going to go ahead and put this up. So they use these little dinky screws. They're not very big. So I'm not putting them back in the same hole because half of them were stripped out and kind of hanging down anyway. They are a square head there, so if you see that tip right there, they do have a square spot on them, so it's really easy to just put it on there and have it stay on the screw gun. And if I look up here, I kind of see where the old holes were, so I can make sure that I'm angling this the correct way. So that used to be about right there, so that looks correct with this connector right here. So now these connectors have a flat head on them, so they only go in one way, so it's not a major problem. And again, it doesn't matter which one was which as far as negative and positive with these, so we don't necessarily care anymore. But anyway, I'm just going to fit that up in there and put this up here, and I'm just looking for the screw hole that's going to fit into. So we got to get this arranged up here and get the screw hole lined up. I'm not putting it into that screw hole, but that's nice and tight up there. There's several holes through this aluminum rail, so I'm just going to pick one and put a screw in. It's just plastic that I'm screwing into, so it's really easy to get it up there. So anyway, and then I'm going to screw another screw right down here. Put that right there. All right. Okay, so the light's up, it's plugged in, and then I'm going to take the fluorescent bulbs, which are now LED bulbs, and they have this end on them, so that fits in there just like a regular LED light did. So the thing is that there's a back side, which is this silver, and then there's a front side, which is the glass portion of it, or plastic clear. And I'm going to just put that in there just like I would put a fluorescent bulb in. Make sure it's in there right. So there's one. And we're going to do the next one, and then we'll turn the lights on. We'll show you what it looks like. Okay, here's the next one. Same setup. Now you got to be careful to just do it on the ends because the bulb itself does rotate. So that was one of the nice things about this. So let me show you. So on the end of this bulb, this little thing here rotates different. You can hear it kind of clicking. So it's nice because you can direct the light the direction that you want. In this case, we want it down. So anyway, let me go ahead and turn those on. I'll show you what it looks like. So looks pretty nice, nice and bright. All right, I got to fix this front area. This is the only place that's kind of loose. And so I think what it is the, I was trying to check, at least over here, one of the screws, and it was just really loose. So it's kind of stripped out, and some of the screws have been coming out, so that doesn't help either. So I got some more long screws, and I'm just gonna make new screw holes and hope for the best. Well, that didn't catch on anything. Let's try another one over here. Might not be able to fix this. Oh, well, that one tightened that one right up. All right, I tightened that right up. Before I could put my finger under there, I can't even get my finger under there now, so I think that's good. Now we'll just put our last two lights in, and we'll be ready to put our light rails back up again. All right, all the big lights are put in, and if I turn this one on, look at that. And then that's the next one. So that looks good there, and now we just got to work on the little ones. You probably have little ones like this that are over your sink, usually, maybe over your stove, something like that. It's usually under the counter is where those go for the most part. We have one this size that's also in our bathroom. And so I'm going to show you how you take those apart and how we're going to fix those up. But these are just snapped in there. So if you kind of take your fingers and push on this top piece right here, it's stuck inside this aluminum metal right there. So if I push, you can see that that just comes down. There's just a little groove that catches this little edge right here. So anyway, so that's down there. We're going to go ahead and take the bulbs out. They're just these little guys. And then the centerpiece right here is the ballast. And you take that and you squeeze it, and that'll expose that. So they're just stuck under little metal things. So you squeeze it and then tip it down, and that exposes all the wires and ballast and everything here. So, okay, we got these exposed, and there's 4 screws on these to hold them in there. So we're going to go ahead and take those out. They're going to have, on this side over here, we have a switch. That's how we turn it on and off. So we're going to go ahead and just disconnect this just like we did on the others. And now we have that out right here. So now the most difficult portion of this is we have some pretty good play here. So we should be able to get these wires here that are clear over here. One of them's got to be on this side. And so, you know, we're going to lose about that much, which I think will still be fine because we got a lot of play in this wire up here. But this has to be drilled out and this ballast cut out of here. Okay, so I've taken the ballast out of here, and interesting, they've got this like they did before the other one, just hooking these two together. So we got to cut this one and put these two and these two together. So then all 4 of those go into just one of these that's on the power line that's going through this switch right here. The other side's fine. It's got all individual leads coming out of it. One thing to point out about this black wire, which is our hot wire, it's going through this switch, because remember we can turn this light on and off from here. So we can't pull this through here anymore, so I'm going to hook it to this one right here. Okay, it's all wired, and there's our connector, so we're going to plug that back in. Kind of snapped in there. We're just going to slide that back up in there. All right, these are the 2 LED bulbs we're going to use, and you can see they're quite a bit shorter. These are only 1 foot long, but they're set up the same way as the other ones. We want to make sure we put our little cover back on. So we'll cover up our wires here, and when you're putting this on, you can see the little pieces that fold down from they're meant for this to go into, so it's not too hard, especially if you paid attention to how you took it out. But covers up nice and neat. And then we'll put this in there. Let's test it. Whoops, got this one pointing the wrong way. I'm gonna turn our little. Remember, they have these little adjusters on them, so let's see. So that's the middle right there. Okay. There we are. Okay. And we have our top, our glass. So we got to get it in the groove that's in the back here. And then we're just going to tip it up and kind of push back in with our thumbs again to get it to pop back into the other groove. All right, that one's done. Now that's cleaning the light panels so that the covers that we can put back up over the lights, and you can see the lights are on. So we got plenty of light here. Yeah, they all work. Where we were having issues before, most of them didn't work. Good to take these things down from time to time anyway and wash them off, because a lot of things, a lot of things get stuck on this.
Oh,
so yeah, so anyway,
like anything.
we're just wiping down, cleaning them really good, and then we'll put it back up. All right, so we have washed these off, and I put silicone on this little lip here. Remember, this lip right here has to go up into that little groove. All right, this little rubber mallet is working better. Okay, whew. That was some hard work. So I think the easier way to do it is just use a rubber mallet and just kind of tap it along, and it kind of pops into the slot. So that's a lot easier than trying to push on it. But I am totally wore out now. But anyway, bedroom's done. We need to move into the bathroom. And just like that, we're done.
Wasn't just like that.
It wasn't just like that, no. And then, we messed up this one little spot because I got a little carried away and lifted the piece by myself, because they're at least 10 feet.
That was the longest piece also.
Yeah, so it cracked. And you can see here that, we've wiped it off, so you can hardly even tell the crack is there. We know it's there, of course, but most people won't ever notice. So we're okay. But
it didn't crack in two.
Yeah, it didn't break in half, so that's good. So anyway, we are done with this. That's how you do LED lights. We did a lot on this because we had to, we did the ceiling on another video, and then we ran the backup camera wires, and we did a lot of stuff. All tore apart and is now all back together. So
runway lighting all the way down.
Yep. So each room has its own sets of lights, but you can turn them all on. And they used to pull about 1.5 amps per, what kind of bulbs were those? My brain just went.
LED?
No, these are LED. So the fluorescent tubes take a lot of power. And so at least, it costs us quite a bit. It may be quite a while before we recover $500 worth of LED lights. But I think they're a lot brighter, and I like, that they're brighter, because when you're in here and, trying to do something at night and things like that, you want it to be bright enough to see, and these are definitely that way. So anyway, all right, that's done. So thanks for coming along with us, and that's it for this project. So lights are done and all back up again. So anyway, so I guess if we're not around Yuma here and want to come by and see the rig, then just keep watching our videos. We'll keep putting them out. We have a playlist here that you can go through and look at everything and see that the stuff that we're doing. So we're kind of on a hold right now. We're not traveling because we're trying to get this all done and ready to go. So we've been doing this while we painted the roof, and we've been doing this waiting for the paint to cure and dry. So that's been about 2 weeks now. So we are ready to start on the solar next. So that'll be another adventure. So thanks for coming along. We'll see you here or down the road, or maybe on our next video. So take care.
Bye.